Hey everybody, how you doing today? Datu Hartman here, and welcome to season 4 of the Modern Arnis Minutes. So for those who haven't done this before, the Modern Arnis Minutes was a 1-minute class in the past. It was the Modern Arnis Minute. I would have a topic that's either someone gave me or I had it already, and what I would do is say, here's what we're going to teach, and then do a 1-minute class on the floor. Partway through last season, we just said the heck with it, and we called it the Modern Arnis Minutes. We're going to take as much time as it needs to get the point across. No pun intended. Today's topic is going to be very interesting. It was a little controversial. Recently on the internet, a gentleman, Phil Elmore, made a post saying, in Filipino blade work, there's only 2 cuts and 2 thrusts. And the way I interpreted what he was saying is everything else was fluff. Now, I may have that a little wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read in this. So I'm going to go over the way I cut and thrust. So I'm going to do this from an edged and impact weapon setup as well. Now, this is probably going to take 2, maybe 3 episodes. The first one is all going to be cutting and striking. The next one will be thrusts. I do thrusting from the front grip. I do thrusting from the back grip. So we'll go over all this. Now, I don't think he's far off, but we'll get into that. Unfortunately, what happened is before there was a chance for a dialogue, or when the dialogue started going, I don't think he liked the direction it was going in, and then everything got deleted off the web. And people continue to talk about it. I think this is a great topic. I think systems may sometimes be a little overdone. So I'm going to tell you how my approach is, and we'll go from there. So, with no further ado, it is now time for the premiere episode of Season 4 of the Modern Arnis Minutes. Okay, so is Phil right? Are the Filipino systems a lot of fluff? And once again, this is how I interpret what he was saying. Yes and no. I definitely feel that some striking systems or counting methods may be overdone, but even the way I do it, I have 27. I have 9 cuts and or strikes. I have 9 thrusts from the front grip being the blade coming out the front of your hand. I've got 9 from the back grip, which comes out the back of the hand. So if you go with that, you could theoretically count that it is 27, but there's a lot of overlap. So I'm going to go through my system, but first, what we have to do is think about this. Now, like I said, we're going to go over the cutting or striking, depending on the tool that you like to utilize. But it's an angle of attack, not a target of attack. So when we start in martial arts, we start with our training wheels. So in Modern Arnis, Professor Presas, when he taught us, he gave us targets for memorization to teach us our angles of attack. So, but I feel after talking to people and watching this in our own system and other systems as well, that sometimes people never take those training wheels off or get that opportunity. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that people are doing long distance training and not having access to an instructor on a day-to-day basis. So, the target of attack is the part of the body you're hitting, which could be the head, it could be the wrist, it could be the shoulder, it could be the kneecap. The angle of attack is how you enter that. So, in Modern Arnis, what we did was, and I'm doing it left-handed so you can follow, 1 and 2 was an X strike. When it initially was taught, those were to the temple. When I got involved, they moved it down to the shoulders for more safety, knowing that you could move it up to the temple. 3 and 4 was the waist. 5 was the thrust. 6 was a palm down thrust. 7 was a palm up thrust. 8 was a low backhand. 9 was a low forehand. 10 was an eye thrust. 11 was an eye thrust. and 12 was the overhead. Now, if we were doing the follow-throughs, the secondary eye thrusts would be a hooking and changing the angle, because now we have a little redundancy if we just do shoulder and eye. So, in some systems, I feel specifically they look at it as it's the target. But Professor demonstrated on many different opportunities how you could do the same thing from different lines of attack, and you could hit different parts of the body with the same angle of attack. So I do a lot of sparring, and I've had a bunch of different situations terrain-wise and stuff like that. So 3 and 4, we'll use that, has always been, and I keep this numerical system going, is the horizontal shots. Now, generally in a teaching thing for safety, we have an angle and a direction. So our number 3 is the forehand to the elbow or waist, and 4 is the backhand the elbow to the waist. Okay, so that would be here or here. But what if I did a horizontal this way? Isn't that the same line of attack, angle, same angle? Yes, it is. You know, if I do a diagonal to the temple, it's different than doing a horizontal to the temple. The 12, during my sparring, periodically I've hit a 12 to the top of the head when I've had the opportunity. We've done sparring where we're doing multiple weapons, stick and dagger, double stick, staff, whatever. We've also incorporated punching and kicking in our sparring. I've hit people in the top of the head with the number 12. I've hit them on the shoulder. I've had them stab me with a knife. Training knife, stepped offline and came down on the weapon and or the arm or hand. I've also had people throw kicks at me, and I've hit that leg or foot with that 12. So this is what I'm always interpreting. This is what happens when you take the training wheels off. So for those who may not be in that, still may be in the training wheel phase, think about the word. It's the angle of attack, not the targets of attack. What's the targets of attack? Anywhere on the body you can hit. So let's go over what I do. And when I change from impact weapon to edge weapon, I still use the same angles of attack. I'm going to change the target. So real quick, let's do what I basically do here, and then from there, I will show you how we change it with the tool. So first of all, using an impact weapon, 1 and 2 are the X. 3 and 4 is the horizontal. So everything to me is an X or a plus. I'm either on one of those lines. So this is one of the lines of a plus. A plus is this way. Okay, so once again, 1, that's part of an X. 2 is part of an X. 3, 4. Now from here, 5, 6, that's 1 and 2 done in the opposite direction. We'll talk about that in a minute. 7 is down. 8 is up. And 9 is a hammering. So 7 is hitting the top of the head. Okay? 9 is hitting the front face like you're hammering a nail into the wall. Now, when I change tools, I change targets. I am not going to put steel into bone. If you put, for those who've done hunting, you understand the dynamics of cutting into a body. If I'm using an edge weapon, think about chopping wood. When I chop wood, I have to wiggle this out. If I put this into the skull, it may get stuck. Not to mention the damage that the skull will do to the blade. For those who've ever watched Forged in Fire, how many times have those weapons have rolls, chips, or breaks when they hit something too hard? So these are the things we have to think about. So generally when I do the overhead, I don't do it to the skull. I'm doing it more as an arm coming out. It's in my repertoire, but it's not used as much when I change to this this tool. So 1 and 2 can be the throat. 3 and 4 can be into the waist, but I can also do 1 and 2 the same way. 5 and 6, 7, that could be more of cutting down the front of the body. 8 coming up, this could be up into the groin and cutting from there. So when I do, and I prefer using a blade to teach some of these things. So when I do the number 7. 7 is a downward cut. I roll to the inside, hands towards the inside. I run up this way to cut back that way. If I go this really steep, my arm's very tight, and actually that's when we have our figure 8, which was angles 5 and 6. And then the front cut is more of a down in the face. And like I said, sometimes when we change tools, some of the attacks are really not designed for the tool that's in your hand. So you use the ones that are more geared for that. So I'm doing 9. Am I really doing 9? I'm doing 5. So 1 and 2 and 5 and 6. All right. 3, 4, and 7 and 8. And 9 is the center point. So I use a 9-point star. Okay, so, but when we do this, 1 and 6 are the same angle. It's just done in a different direction. So we don't change the angle. Like when I do 3 and 4, 3 is the forehand, 4 is the backhand. I need to know which is which for safety. If my partner says, give me a number 4, which is the backhand, and I throw a number 3 instead, a forehand, that messes things up. So we combined angles and direction. It's really 2 angles here, 2 angles there, and that center point. It's 5 angles. But with those, you can, even with this, so let's go back to what Phil said, okay? Palm down, palm up. Okay, I disagree. I think there's more. What he said in his video is that these are the lines of attack. There's more than that. But let's think about this X. There's 4 ways to hit the same target. I can do a downward X, which comes here. Downward X here. If my weapon's low, I can come up from underneath. And for someone who spars a lot, I tell you, I like sparring in this position because this lifts up underneath their vision. So I don't think Phil was too far off, but I don't agree 100% with what he's saying. There's more than that. I don't think a lot of it's fluff. Okay, so let's talk about how something can be perceived as being overdone. Okay, when you make a comment about saying things that are overdone, and you don't do, let's say, the Filipino Martial Arts. To my knowledge, Mr. Elmore never practiced Filipino Martial Arts, or at least never did any significant training in it, but I could be wrong on this. But let's say you're looking at a Filipino martial art and you're watching it like, wow, there's a lot of extra stuff in there. Is there? So let's use the combatant. So I was very fortunate to train with the Presas brothers. I started with Remy Presas, the founder of Modern Arnis, who taught his younger brothers Ernesto and Roberto. Eventually, they broke off and did their own systems. They evolved enough where it needed to be changed because it wasn't the same thing as what Professor Presas was doing. So, but these arts were derivative of those main arts. So Remy Presas taught Modern Arnis, was the creator and taught Modern Arnis. Ernesto Presas, off of that chassis, built Combatant, and Roberto Presas, off the Modern Arnis chassis, built Arnis de Mano. Now, in the Combatant, when you look at what Ernesto did, you will see that there's many different counting systems. And there's a 14 and 24 double stick count. What he did can be perceived as being overdone. Unfortunately, when you, an American who speaks English as his primary language, speaks to a Filipino who teaches multiple, or who speaks multiple dialects of Filipino language first, and English is the 3rd or 4th language they know, there may be some communication issues. So I look at movement, I look at concepts, I talk to students, I talk to the teachers, and I talk to everybody to try to get as much information as possible. But at the end of the day, movement is movement. I don't think the combatant material is overdone. I think it might be misunderstood because, once again, you need to take those training wheels off. And if you weren't given that opportunity because, well, you didn't get to that level yet to understand, we all learn by rote at the beginning, and then later we learn to experiment. So let's talk about angles of attack. So in combatant, I do a 10 by 3 matrix. I look at that there's only 10 angles of attack, but each angle is done 3 ways. Now, Grandmaster Ernesto showed this with his 24 count. He didn't do all of them all 3 ways. So there was really just 10 lines of attack. So 1 is here. I'm doing it right-handed. 2 is here. 3 is down. 4 is down. 5 is a thrust of the shoulder. 6 is a thrust of the shoulder. 7 is stepping off line and overhead with the right. 8 is stepping off to the left. 9 is a thrust stepping off to the right. 10 is stepping off to the left with that thrust. Okay, that's the template I use. So I do each angle 3 ways. I do it with a forehand. I do it with a backhand. I do it with a double swing. Those are the angles of komaton. Now, I use a different delivery system than Ernesto Presas created. I'm not saying that mine is better. What I'm saying is that I can relate to the way I'm doing it, and so can my students. There's nothing wrong with doing things the exact way you were taught. Okay, so we need the quote unquote purists or people to, to preserve it the way it was initially done for a historical point of view. The same token, we need to be able to evolve. And I didn't get to spend as much of that time with Grandmaster Ernesto, but Grandmaster Remy was constantly evolving the art. So I got to see that growth, and he encouraged me to evolve as well. So if we're doing the komaton, what's the 10 by 3 by do it? Okay, I go all 4 hands, okay? All backhands. And all double. And what's the point of all that? I'll tell you in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to wrap things up here. Oh, actually, no, I'm not, because I'm going to make my point. So this whole video was inspired by Phil Elmore. I saw the video saying that everything was 2 cuts there, 2 stabs there, and like I said, the way I interpreted what he was saying, the rest was fluff. Well, I showed you a few things. I showed you how we do it in how I do it in my Presas program. Okay, what I showed you was the advanced angles of attack that we use. We have a basic set and an advanced set. I still reference the original 12, but that's a hybrid of thrusting and striking. So I've actually taken all my strikes and put in one category and all my thrusts in another. So, and if you look at what Professor initially done, everything I did, he covered one way or another. Here's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, which could be easily referenced as figure 8 down, which I'm not a big fan of that way, and bandia banda, if you do it in succession. Then we have figure 8 up, which is angles 5 and 6, 7 and 8, up and down. There's their rumpita, okay? There is no striking like this with the, in the Modern Arnis specifically that we came across where it was out and trying to do a cut down the front or that hammering in the face. These are things I picked up over time doing different things. But this is the methodology I use. Then I take all the thrusts and we start with the 1, 2, and 3, which is our 5, 6, 7 in modern, and then expand upon it from there. That's gonna be the next episode. The next episode, I'll be doing thrusting, front grip, and maybe back grip. It depends on how big I end up making this. If I keep on script and I don't go down the rabbit hole and I talk too much, if I do that, I have to make another episode. But this is what we're gonna do. So, I don't think Phil was too far off. 4 ways of hitting the same target. I just think there's extra lines, and putting these extra lines to me is not fluff. Thrusting, the same thing. It's not fluff having other ways to stab. It could be interpretation. I don't know what his FMA experience is, so maybe he doesn't know enough to make an educated comment on it. I don't know. But Phil, if you're seeing this, by all means, I would love for you to comment on this. And this will be an open forum here. If you see this on Facebook, if you see it here on YouTube, wherever you see this, I would love to hear from you on this. I am not going to hammer you because we disagree on things. You know what? You might bring up some topics that may click with me. I don't know. But I want to hear what you got to say. I really do. Furthermore, for future episodes, I want to hear what everyone thinks. So if there's something you want to see, I can't even just think off the top of the way, what other ways do you do sombrada drill, which was the 6-count drill or something like that? What do you think about X, Y, and Z? All right. I will be seeing but I'll be taking more from stuff that I see in the community and bringing it out here and making comments about it like this. Please feel free to look at some of our other stuff. I had a little problem with my YouTube channels. I actually have 2 now that are cloned. My original one, I lost my sign-in credentials, so I started redeveloping another one. Well, I've got the other one worked out, so I got them both going. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with both of them, but I've got like 1,800 subscribers on one and 500 or 700 on the other, and I cannot merge them. So I'm going to continue putting things on both of them. So if you see it and get a little confused, that's okay. I get confused too. But as we go, make sure you look at some of the things because I have other playlists. So there's Datu's Corner, which just talks about different things, some of its history and stuff like that. Like where the belts come from in Modern Arnis, uniforms, does swing a stick make you a stick fighter? That was another one. I've got a kids series I just started, which is teaching Filipino martial arts to children, which is probably the most important thing we can do. Because if we're worried about the art, if we're concerned and we want the art to continue, we need to teach it to people who have longevity. We need to make this accessible to all, not just a bunch of men in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. We needed men, women, and children. So it's the Little and Junior Arnisadors program. We're probably going to put out like 10 episodes on that, showing how you can teach children and going from there. Now, if you're interested in more information as a whole, you want to get on board one of our programs, we have, I've got a channel on Vimeo. It's the Modern Arnis University. It's basically everything you need to know to get your black belt in Modern Arnis. If you sign up for that, you send me an email. I will send you our curriculum PDF, which actually has everything labeled and what's needed. From there, we've got some other stuff, other content we're putting up on Vimeo, but we can also do live training. So if you're ever in the Metro Buffalo, New York area, by all means come into the club. But if you can't come in and you still want to train, I do a hybrid methodology. So what happens is I have this television, or this is my classroom right here. I've got a 4K camera up there. People log into my regular classes and they participate. They have partners on their end. They ask questions, they take notes. I watch them, I critique them. They see me teaching the class. So not only do they see the material being taught, they're seeing how I teach it. And sometimes questions pop up that are completely out of the box for the topic and brings up some good instructional opportunities. So by all means, just reach out to me directly if you have any questions on that. I'll have some links in the bottom, but you can always just follow into my classes, and we're always gonna be updating things. So listen, with everything going on in the world, please, everybody, stay safe. More importantly, stay sane, and a lot of times that'll keep you safe. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and those were your Modern Arnis Minutes.